tomorrow they have a talk about Project Virtual Reality Check. Jeroen.
That's correct. Virtual Reality Check is a long white paper series, and we investigate performance in the VDI and server-based computing market. And tomorrow we're going to specifically discuss Hyper-V and Windows 7 Service Pack 1.
So you test the performance of Hyper-V when it comes to VDI. So what kind of test do I need to think of, Ruben?
Well, a lot of tests. So
Too many.
Yeah, too many maybe. A lot of scenarios. So what's the impact of one CPU or two CPUs per VM? What's the impact of address space layout randomization? What's the impact of dynamic memory? What is the impact of page file? What's the I/O impact? So there are tons of things to test, and they all have impact on the performance in the VDI space. And everyone is talking about, well, these are the best practices, but really no one knows the real impact, and that's what we find out.
So you measure all that?
Yeah. The thing is that especially in a shared environment like hosted desktops, performance is a key success criteria. You can do it very, very wrong and can have very unhappy users. So there are a lot of best practices that are super important when you're doing VDI. And that's what we're investigating, and that's what we've been doing for a very long time. And it's cool to see what's new with Hyper-V, and especially with also Windows Service Pack 1, Windows 7 Service Pack 1.
Yeah, because tomorrow your talk is majorly about Hyper-V.
Yeah.
And Hyper-V is in its, second and a half edition now?
Second half generation, yes. When we first tested Hyper-V, we thought like, okay, cool, nice, good start. And already with Hyper-V R2, especially with hosted desktop workloads, we saw quite a dramatic increase in performance because you could really see a maturity happening on the performance level. So, and now with dynamic memory allocation, you see a new phase happening for Hyper-V, which is really interesting.
And do you have any figures on that? Like okay, in Hyper-V 1.0 you could have like 50 users on a terminal server, and in 2.0 it's more.
Yep. Well, one of the things we already written down in our white paper, the second phase white papers, was a 154 increase of Hyper-V 1.0 versus 2.0. But there was also a caveat in that, because the impact of the hardware itself is very important.
Yeah, we tested a new generation hypervisor and hardware. So that combined was Hyper-V 1.0 and 2.0 154% difference.
And now we have Service Pack 1 coming up.
Yeah.
Is that increase? Do you have figures on that already, or are you still working on those figures?
We are working on it. We have figures, but at the time of the interview, we still need to double check, and we definitely need to double check because a lot of people are paying attention to what we publish and what we say. But it is looking really, really good. I'm sure for the audience, that's not the most exciting answer, but it's definitely really good, and super interesting to see what's happening in this space, especially with Hyper-V. Yeah.
The key thing with Service Pack 1 is dynamic memory, and memory in the VDI space. That's a key component, and we see an increase of the amount of users when we add SP1 to Hyper-V and add SP1 to Windows 7 and integrate the integration components. We see, we don't mention numbers right now, but we see a pretty amount of increase of the users.
But one of the key questions I think people will have is, okay, how is Hyper-V compared to other products in the market? Are they up to that to compete with those at this moment?
There are many things you can compare hypervisors. But when it comes to performance for hosted desktop environments, Hyper-V is doing a really good job. And it's really
comparable with VMware and Zenser.
Yeah, definitely. So you can really see Hyper-V growing that perspective. And now we can also see that sometimes Microsoft has a competitive edge when it comes to performance. Yeah.
So and then there's this other thing. I'm just a normal IT guy, and I think for tasks on a server like remote desktop services or Citrix, isn't it just best to do it on hardware-based machines instead of virtual machines?
Well,
years ago we would recommend to do that.
Yeah.
So something changed?
Yeah, there are a lot of things that changed, but what is best? So there are already different use cases. So we have remote desktop services, shared platform. We have VDI, VM shared platform in some way. Blade PCs, but also desktops and laptops. And all these different scenarios, they have the use case. That's nothing new. So For a task work, what's the best platform? Well, depends. Do you want to centralize your desktop or not? That's the main question. And when you want to centralize it, well, RDS is, well, from a cost perspective, is I think the most interesting platform today.
It was also interesting to see where we started Project Virtuality Check. We were both heavily against virtualizing, for instance, terminal server workloads. A lot of customers asked us, can you virtualize remote desktop services? We said, no, don't do it. Only for testing or for specific use cases. But you will not get the numbers when you're doing bare metal. Yeah. And we see this paradigm shift happening in virtualization space where more and more workloads can be virtualized. And specifically for remote desktop services, we now fully recommend to virtualize remote desktop services. So when it comes to using virtualization and also have RDS virtualized, for instance, is now the way to go, and it's shifted for sure.
But how is it possible that the hardware you would use to run your virtualization stack on works better with virtualized remote desktop services than without it?
That's easy. Well, in the terminal server world, in the 2003 32 bits world, there are a lot of limitations inside the OS itself. And you create containers. You can create containers, VMs, with these workloads, and then you can overcome these limits. That's what one of the key findings is in VRC.
Yeah. So 64-bit computing has a major deal with this.
Yeah. So 64 bits is the way to go. And the key question is it smart to virtualize 64 bits remote desktop services? Well, not from a scalability perspective, but from a management perspective or hardware independence perspective. Well, these are other discussions. Yeah. So.
Well, interestingly, you don't get less performance anymore. So in the old days, when you started virtualizing such workloads, the difference was huge, running bare metal with 64-bit or virtualized. And now you don't see that difference anymore.
So it's comparable. Are there even scenarios where, because you definitely would recommend virtualization, so that would mean that performance is better if you virtualize your remote desktop service.
And that's a given for 32-bit workloads. Just like Ruben said, the architectural limits of 32-bit is so limited, you cannot use more than 4 GB of memory. And when you start virtualizing VMs like that, you can utilize that hardware.
So it's a no-brainer not to virtualize your 32-bit terminal server. Yeah, that's true.
And so this project Virtual Reality Check, you're going to talk about that tomorrow in your session.
Yeah.
But I can imagine that these tests are so huge that there's no way that you can explain in 1 hour what you have done.
Oh, easy. We have
easy.
Yeah. We have about.
You just talk a little bit faster.
No.
We have 100 slides.
We have 100 slides, and we have 60 minutes, and it is doable. We can handle that.
Yeah, the trick is we don't put a lot of text in our slides, so we can move forward on them. That's a little trick.
It is a story. Yeah. On the slide deck is helpful.
The most complicated discussion probably will be the I/O discussion. We compared Windows 7 and Windows XP, and it's really super interesting because before we started, we expected, especially from my I/O behavior, is that Windows 7 and Windows XP would, the Windows 7 is much later generation operating system, so it would be much fatter and much slower. But from an I/O perspective, we discovered a new world that nobody actually understand it the way we have positioned it. And Windows 7 is...
Especially in the VDI space, I/O or storage in general is really underestimated by a lot of people.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, what happens is they take their server storage design and then reuse that same storage design for their desktop environment. And one of the big recommendations is don't do it. And we'll also talk about the best practices. We have a lot of additional best practices that are small settings but can make a big difference in performance.
Okay, and hardware, does it matter if you have hardware from vendor 1 or vendor 2? Does that make a lot of difference?
We didn't. No, I don't think so. I think.
What hardware did you test on?
Depends on what you mean with hardware. We are focused on Intel in our test environment, so NeoLam and Westmere. But when you compare Intel to AMD, that's not what we test. That's not our focus. No. Well, I don't know if there's an impact.
But we use NeoLam, and our test, anyone that uses NeoLam infrastructure from Intel will get similar results like we. That's the whole purpose of the benchmark. So,
I'm pretty sure that we are using HP. Pretty sure that there's no difference between HP or Dell or pick a name.
Yeah.
Okay, and let's say companies are now starting to explore the possibilities of virtualization. A lot of companies, especially smaller companies, they have yet to start off with virtualization. Yeah. What would you recommend? I would question you both. What would you recommend to be the first step for those people?
Ruben first.
Easy.
Easy.
I'll pick the first one. What's your desktop strategy?
Were you talking about server virtualization in general or desktop virtualization?
Desktop virtualization.
Desktop virtualization. Okay, yeah. Then Ruben is right. What is your desktop strategy? The thing is, the first question that you have to ask yourself is not, I want to do VDI. No, it's what do I want to achieve with my desktops? And from there, that discussion, what does my business need? There you can choose different delivery models for the desktops. And the bigger the organization, the more diverse the delivery models are. But in a smaller organization, it could be that VDI is a perfect fit. But it depends, and something that you have to think about. Not just blindly do it. Yeah.
And it's not only about the desktop, but it's all about, okay, how do I get the application on the desktop? Is it installation? Is it virtualization? Is it web architected? How do I handle the user environment with profiles, with access to the applications, with license management, all this stuff? And that's could be a pretty big technology stack.
So, but is there any guideline? Okay, maybe I say, okay, I have this Office. I want to have Office installed on the machine. I want to have other applications to be virtualized. So if I know all that, what kind of technology would you do then? Is it not just that you choose the technology? Because I think it's very difficult to find out the right way to virtualize.
One of the questions is, where is your data? So when you say, well, I'm roaming and my data is local, well, stick with laptops, for instance, or stick with desktops. But when you have a roaming concept, or you want to have a roaming concept, and data needs to be stored centrally, then it is, well, smarter to host your desktop centrally as well. That's easy. So
okay.
That's part of the. Well, I think that you can create a list of 20 topics, and try to answer these topics, like where is your data, what is your roaming, what kind of endpoints do you want? Do you want to bring your own computer endpoints like Mac, Linux in some way, or Windows? These are all topics, and getting answers on these topics. Well, that's creating your desktop strategy.
Yeah. Okay. And does this project Virtual Reality Check help me with this decision? So can I find that information?
Oh, yeah. In some way, it is. We are not focusing on the business case kind of thing, but we can say, well, the performance impact for VDI is this, and with RDS it's something else. Yeah. You can use these numbers for your business case, and business case is a key component in determining what kind of scenario is useful. So it is, in some way, it is useful, but we don't focus on TCO, ROI, business case, kind of blah blah.
And we cannot also predict what of your applications should where they should run, and what kind of virtualization layer you should use. So we'll get you a better understanding how these different desktop delivery models work, how to tune them, how to get the best performance out of them, but really to understand when should I use AppV, when should I use locally install, should I do it on a laptop, etc. That is a much broader functional discussion, and that's something that is broader than the scope of Virtuality Check. That's all about best practices and focus of hosted desktop infrastructure, so RDS and VDI. Yeah.
Okay, and so where do I learn more about this project? Where do I go?
Oh, that's again
easy.
That's again easy. www.virtualrealitycheck.net. That's the key website. So virtualrealitycheck.net.
Interesting question.
And what do I get there? Do I get demos, slides? What do I get there?
Oh, we wrote 8 white papers, right, or 9?
In total, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So we have 8 white papers. They are stored on the website.
Yeah.
Just register yourself and download the white papers.
Ruben, we just removed the really old ones because the information in there was not valid anymore. So there's only the phase 2 white paper and the phase 3 white papers, and those are the ones that you need because all the information and all the latest best practices, because we also make mistakes. We are independent, that's very important. We're not sponsored, so our findings are truthful, at least honest as possible. And sometimes we see we learned something, so we'll also implement it and do an update of the white paper. And all that latest information is in those 2 latest white papers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one final question. That is, how long are you on this project up till now?
Too long. I think we started in October 2008. I think we both spent more than 2,000-3,000 hours in the whole thing. I think we spoke to each other more than any other colleagues in the whole process. But it is really cool to do because we get a lot of exposure. People like what we do. And so it's also very, very motivating. So we keep on doing it, for sure.
I think it's fair. We are the most visible guys within VRC. But we have colleagues as well, like my colleague Sven Huisman.
Yeah.
He is a key guy inside the VRC team. He's doing a lot of tests and setting up stuff, and he is really helpful for us.
Yeah, we need to give him some kudos, because without Sven, we wouldn't have been where we are right now. Because for us, it's impossible. There's so many, especially weekend work in it. So Sven really made a fundamental difference, and now we can deliver new, interesting stuff. Definitely. So thanks, Sven. Cool.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, thank you very much too, and I'll watch your session tomorrow.
Okay, cool. See you tomorrow then.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Hi, welkom to TechEd.
Hoi Nederland, welkom op TechEd.
Hallo Nederland, welcome to TechEd.
Hi England, welcome to TechEd.
I'm here at TechEd Berlin with Wally Mead, Senior Program Manager for Config Manager 2000 and everything, right?
Been around for a long time, and currently it's Configuration Manager 2012.
That's the official name we're
That's
gonna
the official
get.
name, yes.
So we can drop the V next.
We can drop V next.
We
There's a
can
lot of
use
people
that
are
for
happy
the
with.
next version then.
There'll be V next, or who knows what.
V next. So I've installed SCCM 2000 V next at home, and I saw a lot of differences with the 2007 version.
Right.
First of all is the new interface, which I really love. So what made you decide to go another way? It looks like Operations Manager, it looks like Outlook. You're just opting into the new looks that all the products will have?
Yeah, we wanted a common look and feel with the rest of the System Center products, and with the Outlook familiarity, it gives people a lot of easy integration into the product and easy ability of finding what they're looking for, because they know search folders, they know how to create admin folders, they know all those features, so it's very easy for them to use the new product. The MMC that we had previously had some issues with it. A lot of people weren't happy with it, so we finally got around to joining the bandwagon with all the other System Center products. So much easier to find what you're looking for, much more responsive. One of the very cool things is, if you'd used the 2007 version, it was very hard to control what things an admin saw in the console. So if I gave you a console, you would see all the different nodes, even though you might only do software distribution.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to control that, I had to create a custom MMC and make sure you had it and always used it. In the new version, with security that we have, the console, as we say, it renders itself automatically based on you. So when you log on to my computer, I have full rights, I get the whole console. You log on, you have software distribution rights, your console automatically adjusts to just software distribution objects for you. So it adjusts automatically, so no more customizations that you have to do on your own. Easy for the admin to control who can do what they see, so there's less chance of accidents in the console, or less chance of people getting confused by seeing things that they don't know how to operate with.
Yeah, I remember the 2007 version where you had indeed all the topics there.
Right.
Even if you haven't had the rights to do that.
Yeah, you would see them, and then you might try something and nothing appears. So it's confusing for people, and it was hard for you, the admin, to set that up appropriately so people only saw what they needed.
Yeah, and the first experience in 2012 then is that you don't have to scroll all the way down, having all the features and all that stuff, because it's just in one place.
Right. So we have the Wonder bars down at the bottom left for familiarity with Operations Manager and Data Protection Manager and a lot of the other products. So you click on a Wonder bar, that'll take you to administration. Click on a Wonder bar for software distribution. Click on a different Wonder bar for monitoring, and one for assets and compliance. So once you click one of the Wonder bars, the console adjusts the nodes that are appropriate for you. So again, not having to scroll down a lot to find a lot of things.
So I think a lot of IT pros are very happy with this change, but that's just the looks, right?
Correct.
So what's behind that? Because one of the things I was always questioning myself, why are we using these inboxes folders and text file replication between two management servers? So is there anything going to change there?
Yeah, one of the cool things is we're moving away from the file replication that you're familiar with and the inboxes. We're moving to native SQL replication. So that's native in the core product, and so now SQL Server is going to be moving data between the sites so that we'll be able to remove a lot of those inboxes from the infrastructure. So troubleshooting will be a whole lot easier if you have a need to troubleshoot now. And as part of that, we're also going to reduce the necessity for every single site server to process the same data. So in the 2007 product, your site created some discovery data or inventory data, it got sent to my site, I process that same data, and then I send it up to the central site, it processes the same data again. So 3 different servers process the same data. Now your site creates the data, it's sent to my site through SQL replication, added directly into the database, no additional processing of the data.
Are we able to manage which kind of data is replicated between sites?
You will be able to
extend, for example, some kind of information we get from lower sites?
Sure. You can do 2 different things. One is you can control what inventory data you collect, and we have a new wizard interface in the product. In the current product that you've used, it's an ASCII text file you had to modify to turn on, turn off things, or add your own classes of data. In the new product, it's got a wizard, a UI to help you browse into WMI to directly pull the class and attribute you want for inventory, and then that would replicate up the hierarchy. And also you'll be able to turn off if you have a site that's way far away, got maybe some special classified systems that can't report their inventory, you can turn off inventory collection from that site if you want to help control that data. As part of that, we're also allowing you to reduce the number of servers you have in your infrastructure with the SQL replication and some of the new security stuff we have, so you won't have to have as many servers, different layers of the hierarchy to manage your environment, fewer servers, lower costs, and easier administration.
But we can still manage up to 200, 300,000 computers?
Right now we're stating 300,000. We're going to try and go beyond that. It's very similar as R3, yes. So the R3 product scales to 300,000 now. We're going to be at least that. We're hoping once we get beta 2 all coded up, we'll be able to do our performance tuning and scalability testing, that we'll be able to go beyond 300,000.
With less servers than we were used to.
With fewer servers, yes, and more efficiently.
So what kind of changes do we need to take for that?
Some of the things people look at are new operating systems. So everything's going to be 64-bit now, where before it was 32-bit running on a 64-bit system. Now we're native 64-bit. And Windows Server 2008, SQL 2008, 64-bit. So everything's 64-bit based to give us better performance and better security out of the OS and SQL Server. We have some new technologies with the ability to remove secondary sites. So a lot of times that you guys might put a secondary site at the end of a WAN link just to control content, your packages getting down at a remote location for 50 users. Now you can get remove the secondary site and put a distribution point that has throttling and bandwidth scheduling on it. So it controls that traffic just like a secondary site would. That gives us less overhead, less interaction with the primary site server, so again, better performance and reduced server infrastructure for you guys.
Oh, that is good.
Yes, that
is
very
awesome.
good.
And so we have new interface, we got new SQL replication instead of using inboxes. Even within a site too? Or do we still use the inboxes within sites when managed, or are they all management server connecting to the same database?
Your management servers will be connecting to the site server, transmitting their data, get put in the database.
Okay, but that's in the lower ends. But if we have this, I'm an IT pro. I now want to deploy software. Obviously, App V is there now, and there are different ways of getting applications to desktops.
Right.
So how does that come back in SCCM 2012?
Very good question. So one of the things we have now, as you mentioned, the new application model. And an application model, it allows you to model a set of files you want to make available to a user. For example, Office 2012. I want to make sure that you have an Office application no matter where you are. So what we allow you to do is create what we call deployment types. Deployment types are different presentations of an application. So I want to make sure you have Office. If you're logged on to your primary computer, we're going to install Office through an MSI on your desktop or laptop. But if you borrow my laptop, you log into my laptop, I don't want you installing your software on my system. But you still need to do your work. So we want to make sure that you have access to Office. So what we'll do there is we'll give you maybe an application virtualization version, App V version of Office on my computer. You then go to, here at TechEd, there might be a shared kiosk out in the foyer. And you go there, there's no ability to install locally. Maybe there's no App V technology. So then we'll give you a remote desktop integration or terminal services or Citrix version of Office so that you can still do your work there. So present the application to the user in the manner that makes sense based on where you're logged in.
Yeah.
And a lot of other cool things with the application model is state-based. So if I, the admin, state that you have to have this app installed, we deploy it. You, as a user, uninstall it, we're going to redeploy it automatically.
Oh, cool.
So you don't have to keep advertising that same software over and over again.
Is that using DCM kind of checks?
Very similar to what DCM, or what we now call compliance settings, settings management in ConfigMan 2012 is the replacement for DCM. But yeah, same type of technology, detection methods, verifying whether or not the application's already installed, and if not, is it supposed to be? Yes, install it again. We also have requirement rules, so you can state that only install the application if you're logged onto your computer. Only install it if you have at least 4 gig of RAM and a 3 gig processor. You're in this member of this Active Directory OU type scenario. So you have a lot of rules you can state on when a deployment type runs. Deployment types and rules also have dependencies. So maybe you have an application that requires some other infrastructure component, maybe .NET. You can now model that saying this application, before it can run, has to have this application already installed as a dependency. And you can model those, and we control all those dependencies directly with the product as well. So making it easier for you. You now as the admin, you model your application, you create your deployment types with the rules, you say deploy the application, you don't advertise a program because you don't know what I'm going to get, you deploy the application, and the client figures out what to run based on where you're at and all your requirement rules. So much easier for you to control who gets what, where they get it, when they get it, and the access to the content. We don't put it on your computer until we know you pass the rules, you pass the dependencies, and whether or not it's already installed.
And are there any, so that's a total different approach on how to deploy the software then.
Much more manageable for you. We still do have the old method. If you want to create packages and programs, you can still create them and manage them for ease of transition from the old technology to the new. But we want people working on the new application model because it's a lot more powerful than what you have today.
Great. And on top of that, we still have operating system deployments.
Absolutely.
And what's going to happen in that department?
We had a few new things coming in OSD in vNext, or 2012. One of those, you mentioned R2.
You have to get to that too.
We just announced it 2 days ago, so it's still
really
strange.
Fresh.
Yes. 2012 is a brand new name. We just announced it here at Berlin. But you mentioned R3 earlier. In the ConfigMan 2007 R3 add-on, we added one thing for operating system deployment called pre-staged media. That allows you to, if you have a common manufacturer you get all your hardware from, a Dell or Lenovo or HP, whoever, you can take your boot image and your OS image, like Windows 7, run it through this wizard. It creates a combined WIM file. You give that WIM file to your OEM. They prepare the hard drive of the new box, dump that down on the hard drive. You get the box back and plug it in, run your task sequence. It knows not to format the hard drive. It knows it doesn't have to download your OS file because it's already there. It just boots up WinPE and starts installing the new OS that's already been laid down. So it shortens the time frame of getting a brand new box up to speed. That's in 2012 as well. Along with, if you use pre-execution hooks, we have some UI around that now, so you can use pre-execution hooks, so you can prompt your end users for some questions and then have them supply answers, and those feed into variables to control which task sequence runs or how that task sequence operates. We also have the ability of offline servicing of WIM files. So today, if you have a Windows 7 image, and we release new updates for Windows 7, you have to deploy your image, patch it, and then recapture it and deploy that one out. Now, you have your Windows 7 image, we mount it, you inject those updates automatically, and we resave it back out without you having to do any of that additional deployment and recapturing state.
So that's why I need Wake tools installed.
That's why you need those Wake tools, yes.
Yeah, that's.
And the last thing we do in OSD is, today, if you have a hierarchy, you create a boot image, it's tied to that site because it's tied to the management point. So every single site has to have its own boot media. Now our boot media is hierarchies wide. So you can create one boot media, use it at any site in your hierarchy, we'll figure out what site the client belongs to. So a few things to make OS deployment easier and more effective as well.
Well, that sounds exciting.
Yeah,
is there anything in the beta 1 what is not, is there anything which is not in beta 1, what you will get in beta 2?
Oh sure, there's lots of things coming in beta 2. For example, in R3 we have power management. That's not a beta 1 feature, it's a beta 2 feature.
Okay.
But the Active Directory Delta Discovery is there, and the pre-staged media is there. We're adding some new things to application management in beta 2, like an uninstall method. which we don't have today. We're making deployment monitoring easier in beta 2. We're adding some new functionality around client health, which is a big problem for people. We're adding that feature in and giving you some more control over when client health happens. So we're adding a few additional capabilities, some additional app V integration stuff happening in beta 2, some pre-flight checks for application deployment. So a lot of things coming in beta 2. Beta 1's out now. You can download it as you did and install it locally in your lab environment. Beta 2 will be out in the first quarter of next year. We're highly looking forward to people's feedback on beta 2 when it comes out.
And when can we expect the final release?
About a year from today.
So next year at TechEd we will be discussing the final release for SCCM.
We certainly do expect that, given our TAP customer feedback. We won't ship until they say it's ready to roll.
Oh, great. Well, thank you very much.
Well, you're very welcome.
Very clear information, and I'm going to watch some extra sessions from you then.
All right, good.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm here with Bianca Dekker-Vugts from
Cito, Netherlands.
And what do you do for a job?
I'm a manager of developers.
Oh. And what do you do at TechEd this year?
I'm trying to find out things about Agile and Scrum and new possibilities with TFS 2010.
And did you find what you was looking for?
Yeah, actually I did. Yeah. So I downloaded all presentations and forwarded them to my team back home. So this is what we're going to do, and they're already busy with it.
And have you attended good sessions?
Yeah, very good.
Which one was the best for you?
What's his name? What's the name of this guy? I think Mitch Lacey, if I pronounce it
could be.
right. It's about how you implement Agile in your organization.
We've seen you at the Women in Technology panel too.
Yeah, you did.
And what do you think? What were your thoughts on that session?
Oh, I liked it. It's nice to hear about other women, what their experiences are, and it seems they are similar with mine. And there are either two possibilities, it seems. If you're a woman in technology and also a manager, it seems that either you are labeled a bitch, or you're labeled someone who screwed some managers together.
That's what you learned at the session?
Yeah, that's mostly what I learned, yeah. So I'm the one labeled bitch, never mind.
You don't care?
No, I don't care.
Oh, that sounds bitchy, you know? No, it's not true.
No,
Just kidding.
No, I'm used to it.
Okay.
It's getting things done, and if you know what you're talking about, and you are able to influence the people you need to influence to get your things done, well, if they want to call me bitch, that's fine.
Did you know that the Women in Technology panel got the highest score on all sessions up till now?
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Oh,
They got the highest score.
I forgot to evaluate this one.
Otherwise it wasn't so?
I think it was a good one. It was nice.
Okay, well, thank you very much and have fun.
Yes, same for you.